Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Maverick Mindset Radio Show. I'm Adam Williams.
And I'm Ashley Muckenhop.
And this is the radio show for the dreamers and doers. It's for those who are willing to step into the arena.
Some call us the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers.
We don't accept the status quo. We leave the world better than we find it.
We approach each day with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind. We maintain a rational optimism about the future.
This is the Maverick Mindset Radio Show, brought to you by me, Adam Williams. And I'm back in the studio.
I like sitting over there.
This is a seat of power.
It is a seat of power.
It's got power vibes. There's an aura. That's the word I want?
Yeah.
It's got this seat.
It does.
has
I felt different over there last week.
But the show is better with me sitting here. So here I am. I was in Florida. Mm-hmm. I went to check on my parents. And right before I left, we were really close to hitting like a revenue goal in the businesses. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I'm gonna offer a really sweet special deal on a VIP coaching session and just get this done before the end of the month. So I put a Facebook post, got a bunch of messages. So somebody took the spot, and she lives in Charlotte, so I'm like, Zoom. Not my favorite thing, but whatever.
Right.
That's how a lot of this stuff gets done now. So she pays. And she goes, when am I coming to Erie? I'm like, what? So I'm like, that'd be cool. I said, but I'm going to Florida. So she flew from Charlotte to Fort Myers.
Oh.
And we met down there last week. And it was awesome. I'm really excited because she's a listener of the show.
Yeah.
And she's actually the reason I finally got her on iTunes, because she kept messaging me like, can you just get the show on iTunes now? Fine. But it was really fun because she left a job a while ago and is starting a brand new business.
Oh.
So I really love doing that because we're like blank page, like get this going. You don't have any of the baggage or crap from an existing business. But that's not what we're talking about today.
Nope. Today's interesting. Today's topic is decrypting crypto, emphasizing foundational concepts and learning the basics, which I need because I know nothing about it.
Yeah, this is going to be exciting.
Yeah.
I got pretty fired up this morning.
Yeah.
I had to go through like 18 songs on my pump up playlist to find the one.
We know mine are all Christmas. Now
they are. Yeah, Frosty the Snowman is getting you going. All right.
I still want to find, wasn't there a rock version of some?
Winter Wonderland by Striper.
Yeah, Striper.
That was like they were like a Christian hair band.
Yeah. Yeah, I still need to find that.
Oh, man. Let's listen to it after the show.
Okay.
Quickly.
It should be our opening for the rest of the year.
I bet if we asked really nicely, Striper would let us license that.
For sure.
We'll find out. All right, so today we're talking about cryptocurrency.
Yep.
We have a guest today. I don't think either of us knew what title to give Ben other than crypto expert. Yeah. Is that fair?
That's a hard question. I don't know sometimes.
Well, we don't want to, put you in a box either.
Sure.
So, all right. So, but before we jump into it, like we are every Wednesday, we're streaming live on Facebook, Maverick Mindset Radio. We got the episodes on Spotify, live on YouTube, of course, now finally up on the iTunes, Apple Podcast, and always at maverickmindsetradio.com, where you can use the code Maverick10 for 10% off our merch. And your weekly reminder, and this is going to be a good one, because we really kind of got lucky with the timing of this episode, because there's a lot of excitement in the crypto world right now. So you're going to learn something, you're going to be educated, you're going to be fired up, and all we ask is that you share the show.
Okay, I want to start with the quote.
Yeah,
I'll start with the quote. I picked it, but everyone, I don't know what it means. But it sounded...
That's the best part.
It sounded cool, so someone's going to have to break this down. But the quote is, Bitcoin is a technological tour de force, right?
From Bill Gates.
From Bill Gates. So somebody explain to me what that means.
I have some history with the phrase tour de force.
Yeah.
Because I took, I think, 2 film classes in college when I was at Michigan. And man, every film is a tour de force.
Nice.
And I still don't know what it means.
I don't know. I kept wanting to say Tour de France, right?
Well, yeah, yeah.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
Can I jump in there?
Yes.
Go for it, yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, thanks for having me, first of all. I appreciate being called a crypto expert. I feel like I'm learning more every day. I do many other things. I work with an electrical contractor. That's partly what got me into what we're going to talk about today. But what I would say Bill Gates is touching on in that quote is that Bitcoin is a technology that can't be killed. It can't be shut off without an essentially a worldwide effort to do so. So that's part of why he's saying that. So it's not a technology that was created by a company or a person that can control it. That's one of the founding or foundational legs that it stands on to exist in the first place. So what does that mean? I guess let's dive into that a little more. So cryptocurrency, which Bitcoin is, and I think we should start with Bitcoin.
Actually, I want to go back even further in history because there's like a fundamental concept that most people, especially people that are like opposed to cryptocurrency, they don't even understand currency.
Right.
Yeah.
So like let's straighten you fools out on that first.
Yeah.
And once you understand currency, then you can form an opinion on cryptocurrency. So
It's
Ashley,
me. I'm the fool.
Ashley, I will trade you 10 chickens for 1 cow.
Okay.
Great. You want to do that?
Sure.
We've done it.
Okay.
Your cow was currency. My chickens were currency.
Okay.
All right, Ashley, I'm going to give you 14 seashells to clean the office.
That's not currency. Is it currency?
You want to do it?
Yes.
Great. You clean the office. I give you 14 seashells.
That's currency.
That's currency.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's replacing money?
Well, money is a form of currency, and I
Okay.
think that's part of the whole point here that people don't really get. Let's talk about what currency is, right? So there's a few elements I think that make a good currency.
Okay.
And one of them is it's scarce or there's a limited supply. So we can't use water as currency because it's the most abundant resource on Earth, right? But if it's scarce or if it's limited or if we know how much there is, that makes a good currency. So that's element number one. Number two is it's got to be relatively difficult to like mine or collect, right?
Okay.
So think about gold and silver. Gold is worth more than silver, and one of the reasons is it's harder to pull gold out of the ground than it is to pull silver out of the ground.
Got it.
Unlike oil, where if they want to increase the production of oil, they just open a valve a little bit and the whole price of oil and gas in the entire globe changes in an instant, right? You can't really do that with something like gold or silver. So you've got to have a scarce or limited supply. It's got to be relatively difficult to mine. And then it's got to be something that can actually store value or that won't deteriorate. So apples would not be a particularly good currency because if I let them sit there for 6 months, I'm not going to have many apples left,
Got
right?
it.
So gold is sort of the gold standard when it comes to currency. Hey-o, dad joke number one. Because there's a limited supply, like we sort of kind of have an idea of how much is out there and we're not really creating more of it at a rapid pace.
Right.
It's relatively difficult to mine and it stores its value. So gold and gold coins or gold blocks or gold chains is a really good form of currency because it meets all of those criteria, right?
Got it.
Now, I don't want to get too deep into this too early on, and I may not even want to touch this at all, but there was a point in America where we were on the gold standard, and the value of $1 was tied to the value of gold, right? So it was really hard to create more currency, more dollar bills, more cash, because there was a limited supply of gold that the country had. So it was the dollar was representative of the amount of gold that was sitting there.
I did not know that.
Well, nobody does.
Yeah.
Nobody understands how any of this stuff
Yeah.
works. So that kind of worked. Like the dollar at one point in history was pretty stable because it just represented gold, which is limited supply, relatively difficult to mine, and doesn't deteriorate. It holds, I guess it holds its value or it holds its form, right?
Yeah.
But then America went off the gold standard. Ben, do you know what happened then?
Fractional reserve banking and
and
The
massive
dollar
inflation
statement.
and all kinds of economic uncertainty and
Right.
just chaos. Like we're talking, was it late 70s? I'm thinking, I don't know, I wasn't
Yeah.
around. So there's people out. So now we're no longer on the gold standard. So they can print as much money as they want.
Okay.
And in fact, they do. And where do you think a lot of this inflation is coming from right now? The government keeps putting more and more money into the
system.
world, into the system, into the economy. So when we talk about cryptocurrency later, you're going to see why it can't really have those types of inflationary things happen.
Because it's limited.
Well, and it's difficult to mine, and it stores its value. Hey,
Yes.
all
Look at me
right,
learning.
boom. Let's shut it down right there. If
That's
you
the
learned
lesson.
that much, we've accomplished it. All right,
That was well communicated.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
all right. But now we've got everybody on the edge of their seat. That was 2 steps back. Now we're going to take one more step forward. And before we jump into the crypto stuff, we need to get through our guest interview questions with our guest.
And you don't get to know what they are ahead of time.
Sounds good.
All right, we'll start with the easy ones.
Yes. Yep.
Can you just tell us your name and your business or businesses or what you do? Quickly, 1 minute.
My name is Benjamin Henry. My crypto business is called Hive Mine. I also work with Stonehouse Electric here in Erie, Pennsylvania.
And we're going to talk about how those two things relate later on, which I'm really excited about.
Yes.
So 60 seconds for your backstory. How do you
Sure. College dropout. I found
Yes.
it?
Yes.
I found a business at music school, I like to say. And I felt like I was just doing a whole lot more out of school, so I went to pursue my interests. I did marketing. I have real estate investments and some Airbnbs. Thought that was my thing for a while, and then I kind of got more into this cryptocurrency stuff and mining, and that also led me to the electrical world.
My mind is trying to figure out how that interacts. So
You're going to
I'm
find out. It's really
interested.
exciting.
Yes. Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
So give us an idea just quickly of what's going on in your business right now.
Well, we are constructing kind of in the final stage of our new mining site. We have all the power set up. I'm doing all the wiring for all the machines that are going to hopefully be hosted at our site. We have 77 spots. That is a significant jump from our last place. We had about 20. Takes a lot of
and we'll
time and
explain
effort.
what that means later.
Yeah.
Don't worry, listening audience.
Yes.
We'll explain it to you. Or if you already know, you're going to be pretty excited.
Yeah.
All right, you're up.
Okay. So if you could have a panel of 3 people, living or dead, to help you with your most important decisions, who are the 3 people you would want on your panel?
I like. I would have my girlfriend.
Nice.
She's pretty important in my life right
Scoring
now.
points. Scoring points early in the interview.
That was on live radio.
I would love to talk to Elon Musk, not gonna lie.
Nice.
I think he's very interesting and he knows a lot about this stuff that I'm talking about. He might not be so public about it, but and man, I don't know. How about Adam Williams on the third one?
Right?
I just want
Nice.
to put on the record so that everybody knows, for the handful of guests that we've had, I have been picked more times than Elon Musk.
That's not fair.
I get, I'm more welcoming, I think.
Yeah.
All right, next one. Have you ever hated anyone?
Sure. Yeah.
You want to tell
Should
us
I go
about
into
it?
detail?
If you want to. Hey,
Yeah.
you got the
We
mic.
just can't swear. We're not allowed to swear.
Okay, good to know. Sure, yeah. Not hate in sinister way, but more of a frustrated at individuals who I've encountered a few individuals who have seemed to take it upon themselves to try to make my progression in life harder for no particular reason other than it might make them feel better.
Yeah, well,
So those are people.
there's a reason for it. The reason is your success is going to shine a spotlight on their inadequacy.
Yeah, we talked
Yeah.
about this before. Yep.
We know that. That's
Sure.
where haters come from.
Haters
Yeah.
are motivators.
Yeah, yep. We all have them, I guess, but yeah, that's my answer for that.
All right, you're up, Ashton.
Okay. If you had to do it all over again, what would you do differently?
How old are you?
I'm only 31.
Okay.
Okay.
Only 31.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would do anything differently. so far. I don't have any regrets.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I look at everything like it all builds on itself. So,
Yep.
yeah.
That's a pretty common answer to that
Yep.
question. We may have to change that one. I don't know. We'll
I'll
think
ask
about it.
AI.
If I had to do it all over again, I would have picked a different question for that. All right. What keeps you up at night?
The hardest part about what I do with cryptocurrency is timing, and so that's something that kind of can bother me, where we need to have funds available to purchase machines, and if the price of the markets are going up, then our machine costs are going up, and that's something that we have very little control over, and that's a very tough part of what I do. Yeah.
Again, I don't know what machines mean
Don't
in
worry.
crypto. I'm
Don't worry,
like,
we're gonna get
what
there.
what is all this? Okay.
Sure.
What do you want to be doing in the next 5 years?
Well, I'd love to be building more of these crypto sites. I think that they provide a lot of value to real estate owners. There's a lot of beneficial partnerships that I hope to create in showing people the value of this stuff. And I think that America kind of needs it countrywide, big and small. And yeah, so I hope to be doing this both in Erie and in other places. I've had a few people ask about consulting or helping them set it up in other states, so I hope to be doing that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we ready to get back to it?
Yes.
How are we doing as far as actually following the run of show? Did we blow it up yet?
I don't think we blew it up too bad.
All right.
Again, so you broke down the basics of what currency is. So we
Yeah.
understood what currency. So, but what are the basics of crypto?
Cryptocurrency.
Yeah. Where did it come from?
So one thing I want to throw out there, piggybacking on what Adam talked about, is some perspective in a global scale. So market caps. Market cap means the total value of an asset class. Real estate globally is $380 trillion.
Wow.
Gold is $17.5 trillion. BlackRock, a asset manager, controls $11 trillion in assets.
Jeez.
Silver is $1.7 trillion. Bitcoin is $1.7 trillion and is only 15 years old. Here's another couple of cryptocurrencies. Ethereum is 395 billion. Dogecoin is 57.7 billion.
Although that may change by the end of this show,
Very well could.
based on what we've seen in the last week.
Yeah. Well, it's gone up 20 billion or so in the last few months.
Yeah. So
like-
we should probably talk about volatility today too. But go ahead.
So I'm just trying to paint a picture of scale here. Gold is huge. Silver is also huge. Bitcoin is equally as huge as silver right now, and it's only 15 years old. So, cryptocurrency, it's a digital currency designed to work through a computer network that is not reliant on a central authority, such as a government or a bank or a person who controls it, a centralized server, to uphold or maintain it. This is straight from Wikipedia. Anyone can look these things up. My interpretation of that is that means it is a currency essentially created by people for people without the oversight of a larger institution. It's meant to be a person-to-person transactional tool in the foundational ideas of it. So back to the chicken for a cow,
10 chickens.
that's a transaction.
Okay.
It's currency because you transacted, you came to an agreement and you had a transaction.
Okay.
So cryptocurrency is really just a digital version of that. What's kind of interesting is that we are already halfway, 3/4 to existing in that world with how banking works today anyway. Most people are not having all of their money in cash. They have it in a bank account. It's a digital representation. You're trusting the bank to tell you that the information you see on the screen is right, to keep their accounting together, to ensure your deposits, etc. And oftentimes we're sending money back and forth digitally. It's all digital. in a sense already.
So I want to talk about a little bit about the decentralized part of this, because I
Yes.
think that's a part that maybe people don't understand. So as you were explaining that, I was thinking about a NASCAR race that I took Royce to recently, and we were in this suite, and everybody got drink tickets, and there was one person who handed out drink tickets. So you would think 10 people in the suite, 2 drink tickets apiece, 20 drink tickets floating around. Well, because this one person was in charge of it, I was able to score several additional drink tickets, which probably devalued the whole experience for everybody else in that suite. So that's the idea of like, those drink tickets are a currency. Exchange ticket for drink, right? She could have handed me a chicken, and I could have exchanged the chicken for the drink, alive or dead, maybe worth more or less depending on those circumstances. So I've got a currency, but I've got a centralized system that hands out those drink tickets.
Got it.
Well, in the United States, we've got a centralized system, more centralized system, with the Federal Reserve that decides what interest rates are going to be and how cheap or inexpensive it's going to be, or basically what the money supply is that's out there. So there's people, a limited group of people, who get into a room and make these types of decisions. That's how a centralized system works.
Exactly.
The other point that you made that I think is really interesting is, if I pull up the app on my phone and it tells me I have $100 in the bank, or $1,000 in the bank, or $1 million in the bank, I know that I could go in and pull that out as cash, or I could swipe my debit card or write a check, and someone else could end up with that money, right? But that requires a lot of trust in the system, whereas if you go somewhere like Argentina and you had $100,000 in the bank yesterday, and you check today and there's only $50 in there, and you walk into the bank, you're talking to guys with machine guns about what happened to the balance in your bank account, right?
Sure.
So that's a system where the trust kind of goes away, or is completely non-existent, and there's nothing you can do about it because they have the machine guns and you don't.
Yeah, we definitely, in America, it's very easy to take for granted what we have here in that way in particular. And in other countries in the world, the banking systems are not as reliable. The electric grids are not as reliable. Cell service, internet, things like that. All those things have to be reliable for our banking system to work the way it does. So to illustrate the decentralized part, and specifically, again, starting with Bitcoin, it is a network of computers that have nothing to do with each other. So each sort of set, so to speak, of computers that maintain this network can come and go as they please and are not orchestrated or organized in any way, in any centralized way. So there's no one saying, we need 100,000 computers on this network. It is purely up to the people that participate. How many computers that uphold this network? Does that make any sense?
So when you say participate, what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean,
Who's in charge of Bitcoin?
well,
Or cryptocurrency? Who's
That's a great question. Who's in charge of Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Great question.
So Bitcoin was created by a person or group of people that go by a pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto.
Okay.
And we don't know who they are, and they left the project. They left the project intentionally to have it be decentralized. So, in other words, the answer to your question is that no one controls it, and that is intentional.
But it's their computers?
Well, it's code. It's a code that is operating and has a life of its own.
Forever now. No one can.
Correct.
It's just there.
Because this network of computers maintains it.
So for example, if you went and unplugged 1,000 computers couldn't even affect it.
Got it.
You would have to stop all of the computers that participate in this network, and you would also have to somehow go to all the, this is getting a little deeper, but go to all the nodes and erase all the data and delete all the code.
Does anyone even know all the computers?
I don't, that's kind of, again, the point is it's so big now that it would take such an enormous coordinated effort. Probably the only way would be eliminating electricity in the world. So in other words, it's pretty impossible to get rid of. this is why we're seeing governments turning to it and not away from it, because you can bet that they have tried. And this is a threat to governments,
Why is it
frankly.
a threat?
Well, because they have their own currencies, and they want the people that live in those countries to use their currencies.
And this currency, where does this currency come from? That's right. If it's different than our currency, where is this currency?
So,
who makes this currency?
Well, so that's where mining comes in.
Okay.
So with again, we're just talking about Bitcoin. So don't think about all of cryptocurrency doesn't fall under the same category as how Bitcoin operates.
Okay.
Bitcoin is a proof of work cryptocurrency.
So just it wasn't technically the first cryptocurrency, but it's the oldest existing one. There was one in the early 90s.
Right.
I had to Google it.
Namecoin and some others, yeah.
So I think we use Bitcoin as the example because it's a good example. It's a helpful example. It's the most widely adopted cryptocurrency and probably the easiest to understand for the basics. And then we can talk about variations of it and how some of these other coins exist.
Right.
But think about it this way, right? If you go 28 miles that direction, you're in Canada. They have a different currency. People are okay with that. If you go a couple thousand miles that way, you're in Mexico. They have a different currency. People are okay with that, right? So Bitcoin is just another form of currency that many people believe is better than any of the three that I just explained. All right. So explain, Ben, how it's created or how it's mined or how people can get Bitcoin.
Right. Okay, so a function of Bitcoin is that there's a preset, essentially like a rollout of Bitcoin over time. So in the very beginning, anyone participating in the network was highly rewarded, meaning they would be devoting computational power from a computer to the network. And every, I believe it's 12 minutes, a block is formed, and they would earn a small percentage of the block reward. A block is essentially like Bitcoin reviewing all the transactions of the last 10 minutes and then closing the books on that 10 minutes. And then that's created, it can't be altered, and on to the next. And that is what the network does every 10 minutes forever.
So it's just not ongoing, it's time framed.
It is ongoing. It's just that the block is a way
You can only earn so much in that block.
Each block has a set reward payout to the miners.
Got it. Okay.
Over time, every 4 years, in fact, that reward is cut in half.
Oh.
Infinitely.
So you want to take it out before it's cut in half?
So this goes back to the how do you affect the supply of the currency?
Yeah,
right?
so over time, the supply is going up because there's more and more supply out there. And over time, the reward for participating in the network is going down. This incentivizes the increase in value over time because it's becoming more and more scarce, just from what I've just described in that sense. That has nothing to do yet with how many people are buying and holding it. So in other words, a foundational aspect of how it works creates scarcity over time.
Okay.
So imagine if instead of blocks or currency, we were talking about fish. They said, all right, every 10 minutes, fishermen, go out there and fish. But this first hour, or this first 10 minutes, you're only allowed to catch 10 fish.
Oh, okay.
And the next hour, you're only allowed to catch 5 fish.
Mm-hmm.
And the next hour, you're only able to catch 2.5 fish. All right, now there the analogy just fell apart. That's what's happening with Bitcoin is over time, it's every 4 years, they're saying, all right, here's the rate at which we'll allow you to pull this stuff out. And then we cut it in half. And then so it's the supply is increasing, but at a slower rate, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes a little more difficult to mine it, to create it, to find it, to capture it, whatever.
Yep.
So how do people figure this out? Is there like a handbook? Like, how do you know? Like, I couldn't just go. Like, I still wouldn't know what I was doing if I was like, ooh.
Well,
Facebook.
this is honestly one of the probably the biggest challenges with it today.
People are doing it wrong.
No, it's just translating it and helping it to be adopted in a way that makes sense for
They need
more
to do
people.
Bitcoin for Dummies with analogies of fish, chickens, and cows. And
That's what we should have called this, Bitcoin for Dummies. But that's figuring this out, right?
Yeah,
Solving these
gosh.
problems is the thing that the computer does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, those computers are the mining machines.
And I want to jump on that for a second too, which is, when you use your Windows computer, when you use your Apple computer, when they were creating these devices, I mean, it took quite a while to develop them. They have to write all the code. They're creating the user experience, and they're always changing and editing these things. Well, I guess I lost my train of thought there with where I was.
Well, we were
going.
talking about the machines and how they solve these problems, and how it's becoming more difficult or more expensive to solve the problem and create these blocks or fulfill the blocks or whatever the terminology is.
So these Windows and Apple, they're always being worked on and made better, and they're controlled by companies. Bitcoin was released, and essentially very nerdy computer people were the only ones privy to this information. Now, what's very interesting about that is very early on, there's a famous story with Bitcoin where a guy spent 10,000 Bitcoin to buy 2 pizzas, and he was mining Bitcoin in the early like first few years. And he, frankly, that was a huge achievement of the day, converting Bitcoin to a real world product. It was proving to people what they thought was not possible with a digital currency not coming from a centralized
that it could come in a
place.
form then of money.
Yeah, that someone would accept that, that amount today is like hundreds of millions or of millions for sure. Mm-hmm. And he would never have known that then.
Yeah.
Necessarily, right?
Yep.
So as time goes on, people are realizing the power of this, seeing that, way back then it was under $1, and Bitcoin today is touching on $90,000. So if you participated in the network 10 years ago, you're probably a millionaire if you have it today. Multi-millionaire.
Darn it.
Well, part of what I believe is that is not to say it won't happen again 10 and 20 and 30 years from now. In fact, there's a lot of reasons why people believe that is the case. In fact, BlackRock, worth $11 trillion, believes that that's the case, specifically with Bitcoin.
Can you lose your Bitcoin? Like if you,
yes,
like you could have $100,000 in there. If you don't do something with it, are you going to lose it?
Okay, so that's an important question. No, the way these networks work is that the participation I keep talking about, in other words, mining, the whole network keeps it's all a ledger, right? So when you receive crypto into your wallet, mm-hmm. the whole network knows that your wallet has that amount. So no, there's no way to just poof, it's gone.
Okay.
But what there is 100 other ways to lose it.
Oh, okay.
That being sending it to a centralized exchange or company that goes under or doesn't handle your assets properly.
Okay.
Scams, phishing,
forgetting your password.
Forgetting your
Why,
seed
you
phrase,
you
your
can't
password.
Get in ever?
So every crypto wallet, if you have a self-custody crypto wallet, which is another way of saying a private crypto wallet, has a seed phrase. Mm-hmm. And so these are 12 random words.
Oh, jeez.
And it's essentially your backdoor key if you forget your password or your PIN, that you can go to any computer in the world and access your cryptocurrency with your seed phrase. So it's not tied to a computer. That's another really interesting part of it. So it's not like you have a wallet on your laptop. Yep. It's you have a wallet that is interacting with this worldwide network.
So let me go back to the block, right? So the block, I'm going to oversimplify it. The block is basically a math problem.
Yes.
And when the math problem gets solved, that block gets closed, we move on to the next one.
Yes.
Well, as a series of those blocks get solved, they form a chain, which is where the phrase blockchain comes from, right? Now, Ben, if you can explain the difference between proof of work and proof of stake, right?
Yep.
So now we're showing who actually possesses the currency, whether it's Bitcoin or other ones that work this way. So explain. So you've got these machines that solve these math problems. The math problem gets solved, and the currency gets mined, and poof, pops out of the ground, basically, right? But explain the difference between the proof of work and the proof of stake concept there.
Yeah, a couple things. So just to be clear, I mean, it's not that it pops out of the ground. It's that it is coded to be rolled out at a certain rate,
Yep.
Like, so this is something I didn't say yet, is there's only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoin. There will never be more than 21 million. You can divide a Bitcoin by many decimal places, but there will never be more than 21 million. So right now, people should be looking at Bitcoin like it's a scramble to own a whole Bitcoin right now. 10 years ago, it was a scramble to own thousands of Bitcoin. In 20 years, it might be a scramble to own 0.01 Bitcoin.
Oh, wow.
And so on, right? Proof of work is this network of computers that interact with themselves, as I described. Proof of stake is a step sort of towards centralized, a centralized structure where there is a company or a person or a server that controls the network. It is not as decentralized as a proof of work cryptocurrency or blockchain. Proof of stake works more from pooling funds together and having them sit on a server, essentially. It's a little bit more like a fund than it is a decentralized network. Proof of stake cryptocurrencies, what they hang their hat on is being extremely fast and having more user interactability, I guess you could say. But fast was never the idea with cryptocurrency, I would argue. Fast is useful, but not at the expense of privacy or security or decentralization. At that point, you might as well just be using Zelle or anything else. Or you really only care about it from a more of a gambling perspective. Because yes, these proof of stake cryptocurrencies can come and go and be very volatile, and there's ways to make a lot of money with them. But for the average person, that's so much deeper and further than I think most people will realistically ever get to.
And I think that's an important one, and especially if we're focusing just on Bitcoin, there will be 21 million ever, right? So we've capped our supply, which I don't think we've ever seen with a currency before, because every other currency, there's more in the ground, or there's more that can be created. So there's a cap on the supply, but the demand continues to increase as people see the value, for lack of a better term, of that privacy and of that security and of the benefit of having a currency with a limited supply. Demand's going to continue to grow up. Supply stays the same. Well, that means this will become more valuable so long as people continue to have an interest and have a demand for this thing, right? Yep. So I think that's where, if you look at the timeline of Bitcoin and its value compared to the US dollar, it's the hockey stick graph where it completely takes off and continues to grow. And yes, there's volatility, and yes, there's ups and downs, but overall the graph goes up and to the right.
Yeah.
But I think if you look at a smaller scale, or if you look at other currencies, you see a lot more volatility in those. And for people who may or may not understand this, so we talked about cryptocurrency as a currency, as a store of value, as a way to exchange for goods and services, just like the dollar bills in your pocket or your PayPal account or your Zelle account or whatever. Is it clear that I'm like an older generation if I talk about PayPal still and it's not Venmo or Cash App?
I still PayPal.
Am I? Well, yes. And you are in your early 40s.
To a 17-year-old, probably.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, I don't care about their opinions anyway.
They don't matter yet.
I totally lost my train of thought there. Where was I going with that? I threw myself off. Oh, so there's the currency aspect of it, but then there's also this. I don't want to call it maybe the investment side of it, and the lawyers will argue about whether it's a currency or a security. But the point is, there's some people who look at this and say, well, I think that this thing is going to become more valuable, so I'm going to treat it like an investment. And it would be no different if I thought Mexican pesos were going to become more valuable. I'd go buy some of them.
Right.
And then when they
Right.
become more valuable, I'd exchange them back for my American dollars and have more American dollars. And so a lot of people are treating cryptocurrency that way of, I'm going to buy my fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a Bitcoin, and I'm going to see what happens to it. So the Bitcoin that I bought, and I'll mess up the dates here, the first transaction where I acquired some Bitcoin was in, I think, December of 2021. And today, if I go and log into that wallet, the value of that is twice what it was back then, because I haven't used it as currency. I haven't actually exchanged it for anything. I just bought it and watched it increase in value. So
And decrease in value at times.
yeah, well, yeah, but I don't want to talk about that. Well, yeah, so I think that,
But that's not what you just said is uncommon typically. I mean, I haven't met a real estate investor. It's rare to meet a real estate investor, and I don't think that I have met one that can say I purchased a piece of real estate and doubled my money in 3 years.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of what creates some chaos in this market is some people still view it as a currency and a way to pay for goods and services, and other people look at it as an investment. And then there's a third category of people that it's gambling money, right? And I was talking about it before the show. After watching Dogecoin do what it's done since the election, I emptied out my FanDuel account and dumped it all in there because we're gambling, right? We're playing with house money on this.
Well, the beauty of it is that it really can be all three of those things.
Yeah.
None of us are to say it is one or the other in particular.
Yeah.
And you can truly approach it with whatever goals you have in mind. There's a company out there, MicroStrategy, that is very interesting, and I encourage any business owner to learn more about this, where they are taking their profit and investing it into Bitcoin. The theory, and it's proven to be true already, but the theory being they can multiply the value of their profit and their earnings by just reinvesting their profit right into Bitcoin. It extends the timeline potentially, but the amount of work required to produce that return is a click of a button. All they have to do is take the profit and buy Bitcoin.
Well, the other thing they could do is let's say they made that $100 in profit, take their $100 bill and shove it under their mattress. What's that $100 bill going to be worth a year from now?
Probably $85.
Okay, all right. I was going to say in the 90s, but that's the point. And I think that's how inflation works. I think people understand that concept of your dollar today is worth less than it was 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's not to say Bitcoin will completely prevent that from happening.
Right.
Especially in a shorter time horizon, because there is some volatility to it. But that's the whole point. Your dollar is worth less every single day that goes by where you're just holding on to that dollar.
Yeah, and it comes down to your perspective or strategy in life or in business. I believe that for most people, that shot at having that extra money in a relatively short time frame is pretty important. I also think that it might have a big impact in our economy over the next decade. So it's worthwhile to at least learn about, start to interact with. I'm available to talk with anyone who wants to talk about this stuff. But it's very interesting, and it's certainly not going anywhere.
So let's talk about that for a little bit. The one thing I did want to try and touch on today was NFTs. We're not going to have time for it.
Yeah.
We'll do another episode because that's another area that once you understand blockchain and cryptocurrency, NFTs start to make more sense. But I do want to talk about the mining side of this because well, it's relatively easy to go online and set up an account and acquire some form of cryptocurrency, whether it's Bitcoin or something else. I can exchange dollars for that. That's pretty straightforward, right? Just like me going to the currency exchange at the airport and getting, take your pick.
Robinhood's a great place to start for most people.
Okay. All right. Good recommendation.
I
But
think I have that app. I don't think I ever did anything with
there
it.
is another way to acquire cryptocurrency.
Right.
And that is through mining.
Yeah.
And this is where your worlds have collided of real estate and electricity and cryptocurrency.
I was going to ask, how does the electricity
So bring it all together for us.
So mining, network of computers, right? So that basically just means that I am hosting, or I have a facility that we have these computers operating. These, again, as I explained, these computers earn a payout every 6 to 12 minutes, depending on what crypto you're mining. And that's accruing as long as they're on. We make a profit on the cost of electricity. These machines cost electricity. That's the cost associated with operating them.
So just like you would put diesel fuel in your bulldozer and go and mine, you're putting electricity into your computer to mine the crypto.
Exactly.
Okay, got
Which
it.
also is to say that that's part of where the value comes from. There is a cost associated with producing it. Back to what we talked about at the very beginning. A byproduct of mining is heat. That's one of the ways that I've framed what I do, which is I have spaces in warehouses, and my pitch is that we provide free heat. You don't have to pay for heat as long as we're there.
These computers are working so hard and consuming so much electricity that they produce enough heat to heat a warehouse.
Exactly. Full of cars and boats, for
That's
example.
insane.
Yeah.
No, it's not insane. It's super smart. And Ben figured it out.
Yeah.
and that's really just the lowest hanging fruit, to be honest with you. There's many other potential applications for that, but that's what I've found to be easiest in our area right now. So
if I want to get into mining cryptocurrency, I got a couple options.
Mm-hmm.
I can go online, research machines, buy a machine, plug it in my house. It'll make a whole bunch of noise and generate some heat.
Right.
It'll get hot, basically.
Yeah.
And I can sit and wait for something to happen, and then the fan is going to break in that computer, and I can rip it apart and replace the fan and plug it back in and keep it going. So that's one option.
Mm-hmm.
Or I can come to someone like you and say, I want to get into crypto mining. How do you help me with that?
Yeah. Well, so we have these facilities. We have kind of dedicated trade relationships with the manufacturers of these machines, and so we can get them directly from the manufacturers at the best price, I'd hope, and we host them for you. So we have a facility that is meant for this purpose, so that you don't have to have any of the knowledge or expertise required to do it at your house, which is it requires a certain level of expertise.
I wouldn't know how to do it.
Most people
Right.
wouldn't know how.
Okay.
Some people could figure it out, but it also begs the question, do you really want that in your house? So, I've only ever seen people have one
Are
or
these
two
big?
machines in their house. They're like a desktop computer, like a tower, give or take.
Got it.
They're way louder. They're almost like a vacuum. It's almost like two vacuums.
Oh, wow.
Each machine is almost like two vacuums, essentially, in terms of the power consumption and in terms of like the noise.
Okay.
Now, you can eliminate the noise by putting them in liquid. That's a whole other thing.
Jeez.
And he doesn't mean just set it in your bathtub.
No.
Yeah. Mineral oil. Yeah. So what I like about mining versus buying is that most people don't, just from a very basic financial place, most people are not buying into stocks or crypto in a disciplined monthly type of way. This is one of the best, most proven strategies to be profitable in investments, is just dollar cost averaging into these things. And the truth is that most people are just not doing that. What a lot of people tend to do is they take a chunk of money and they throw it into something, and then when they see it go down, they go, "Oh shit, oh crap, I'm not smart," and then they sell, and they sell at a loss, and that happens for most people the first 10 times they try to make money in the stock market or cryptocurrency.
Okay.
I would guess.
Yeah.
Well, they just don't have the experience to know, right?
Yep.
Mining takes all of that out of it. All you have to do is buy a machine. You're going to earn your money back in about a year, and that machine is going to operate for 1 to 3 years profitably.
Wow.
So that's to say you're going to get your money back in a year, and you're going to get whatever profit on top of that. And I always recommend people to go into it with the idea of holding your earnings for 4 or more years to maximize the return.
Okay.
But you talked about dollar cost averaging. There's some volatility to this. So if I look at the price of Bitcoin, which is now at $91,739, hit 90,000 yesterday, which was an all-time high.
Yeah.
So if I'm mining Bitcoin in particular, the value of a coin, which you're not going to mine a full coin, you're going to get a fraction of a coin, but a full coin is valued at $91,000. Well, a month ago, it was $62,000. Mm-hmm. So with my cost of electricity and my cost of the machine, I'm getting 50% more value now than I was getting out then, right? Yeah. Now, next month, it may be between those two numbers, it may be higher, it may be lower, but over a long enough time horizon, I'm going to get my cost of electricity, which fluctuates a little bit, and my cost of keeping and maintaining the machine, it'll average out so that I'm getting a pretty steady, consistent return over a long enough time horizon. This is not the hockey stick. This is not the massive volatility up and down that we're shooting for. So it's a disciplined form of it's a machine that prints $5 bills, but sometimes $1 bills and sometimes $10 bills.
Yeah,
right.
That's a good way to think about it. Absolutely. It's just another way to interact with cryptocurrency. I think it works particularly well for busy people that have money that would like to invest in something new, that they're interested in getting into this. I think it's really a great option for companies in the future to, for retirement or savings accounts or bonus accounts or whatever it might be for taking care of their employees, their owners, however they might want to approach it. It's great for business owners and real estate owners with warehouses, farmland, airplane hangars, whatever space that could benefit from being heated and having that heat be
but this is your model of mining. Yeah. The more common model of mining is set up massive facilities. Like how many machines are we talking in those facilities?
I mean, they can be thousands. I've seen some that are many hundreds.
And you're talking about the one that you guys are spinning up right now is 77. Yeah. Wow. So much smaller operation, but intentional, right? So first of all, less risk of natural disaster coming in and wiping out the whole operation. Yeah. And adding benefits to the owners of the real estate and the kind of I think probably helping the electricity grid a little bit.
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like the way I'm approaching it is in fact more of a decentralized way. Yeah. I think it's more interesting to achieve 1,500 machines in 10 different locations, benefiting 10 different, organizations or people or landowners, than it is to have a giant company that has a huge swath of land and has an enormous footprint and is making everyone upset because they're so big. That is what's happening in other places. So that's not what I intend to do, hopefully.
Okay. So you've got these mining facilities, you're scaling it, and you and I have done some work on this because you were just talking about the people who might be interested in this. The one category of people that you left out are sort of those libertarian, anti-government, keep your hands off my money type people.
Absolutely.
Friends. That's what I call them. So there's a lot of opportunity for people to get involved without getting, spending their entire life savings. There's a way to dabble in this without a whole bunch of labor and brain damage that can go into it by working with an expert. All right, so we got about 2 minutes left, and I'm going to give you 90 seconds of that. Other than Bitcoin, what is another currency that we should know about? Should we talk about Doge, or you want to talk about you got your Litecoin shirt on, or what's another one?
Doge and Litecoin are the ones that I stand behind quite a bit because they're most similar to Bitcoin. Litecoin in particular is essentially like the silver to Bitcoin. If Bitcoin was gold, Litecoin would be silver. Yes. Litecoin has 84 million. It is 2 years younger than Bitcoin. And I believe that there's more of an opportunity to capitalize on something like Litecoin than Bitcoin. So we mine Litecoin and Dogecoin.
And Dogecoin is susceptible to some of that volatility, just like the stock market, because Elon Musk is really involved in it. He sends out one tweet and the whole thing blows up.
Yeah.
Man, what a great show today.
I feel educated.
We're going to have Ben come back on and talk about some other stuff, but great show. Great. I believe in you.